Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next edition of Scicomm in the COVID-19 era. Super excited to have Roopali Chaudhary here with us today. And we're going to engage with her and learn more about the efforts from her organization in Scicomm in COVID-19. Just a little bit about what this is. So we are having these conversations, and I call them conversations, with organizations and individuals that are doing the communication, the engagement in this time, trying to communicate information about COVID-19 and many other things. And so everyone is approaching it in their own unique way. And I think that's the beauty about this. And I want to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, and why. Okay, so Roopali, thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig into what you do.
Sure, thank you. So my name is Roopali Chaudhary. I have a PhD in molecular cellular biology, and I've done a postdoc in immunology looking at immune memory of food allergies. I founded Lotus STEMM, which is a Canadian nonprofit organization, because I felt like there was a networking and leadership platform needed for South Asian women in the STEM fields, including medicine. And our aim is really to increase Scicomm ventures and STEM outreach amongst the South Asian community and increase representation of South Asian women within the community, but then also beyond the South Asian community itself. So that's who I am, and that's what I do, mostly.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that very brief intro. So tell us a little bit more about your Scicomm activities in this COVID-19 era. What have you done so far?
Sure. We, as the Lotus STEM team, started to notice that there were a lot of misinformation floating amongst our parents that were not always coming out in English, but the misinformation was coming in our native languages. We realized that there wasn't as much reach going out from WHO or CDC to reach out to different communities. So we took it upon ourselves to disseminate the information in our own languages. So we've been making YouTube videos where we're doing COVID-19 debunking or myth debunking, but then also short explainer videos on things like, what does flatten the curve mean? That everyone hears it and you know that yes, it'll affect the healthcare system, but we're taking it a little bit of a different approach where we're also bringing in culture into it. We're bringing in how it's going to affect your family. And we've taken that information, translated it into 11 plus South Asian languages, and just recorded the videos, put them up on YouTube, and hope that people are watching them.
So let's go back. Tell us a little bit about the process. So what happens? Do you see like a myth circulating first, and then you get a team together, and then walk us through that process?
Yes, pretty much. So a lot of us who are not necessarily living with our parents, we're in touch with our parents. We get the information from all these like WhatsApp forwards or Facebook forwards of like, did you know that 5G is causing coronavirus? I mean, that's not specific to the South Asian community, but it's the debunking is not happening in those languages. Some other myths that kept coming up amongst the South Asian community was having turmeric and having hot water with turmeric is going to either prevent you from getting the virus or B, cure it. And it became this mentality that was going through that South Asians are not going to get affected by this because our food has turmeric in it and we drink turmeric, therefore we're immune. And it was like, you still have to adhere to all of the precautions that are needed. You still need to be calling your doctor if you develop any symptoms. You need to keep social distancing. So that's kind of where the idea came from, because we just got frustrated and we were doing the myth debunking within our own families, and if anyone has tried to debunk or do Scicomm with their own families, they can understand it can be very frustrating. So not only dealing with that frustration, we were like, we need to create these videos that look like there is some level of authority. We are bringing credentials into it. And at the same time, it is a visual way. So if people are watching these myths on WhatsApp forwards, let's create the debunking videos and put them out as WhatsApp forwards. Send it out to our own families. And there's a level of pride as well that families then have when they see their own family members in a video that's having educational component to it, that they're then willing to send it out to others. So the process was very much, we've seen these myths, they keep coming back. Instead of fighting with individuals, let's make a video that we can then send out. And we can have that conversation with them, because now we have this basic material that we can then elaborate with our own families. Right. So it became a process where we take not only myths, but also certain societal or certain suggestions coming out from WHO and CDC, and we're creating the explainer videos. Why is that important? Why should we adhere to that? So it's not just because the government is telling us to, or just because WHO is telling us to, understanding how is this going to really impact you, your safety and your health. And that's helped with a lot of conversations that we can then have.
I see. So the process, yeah, you see these things, and then, so you have a team, right? They're noticing these things, and then they bring up, hey, we should try to debunk this thing, right? So do you reach out to experts? Tell us a little bit more about that part. Yeah, how do you?
What we did was we created a list of myths that all of us were seeing, and we found themes within there. Within those themes, then, when we create the script, so there's one script that gets sent out to everyone. And to develop that script, there's 3 of us who are all involved in some level of Scicomm ventures. We will go out, do the research, read the material, the preprints that are coming out as well, keeping in mind that they are preprints. But we take the information that needs to be put in, and we create a document with all of the information. I then take that and I will send it out to someone who is actively involved within the Canadian system for disseminating public knowledge on COVID-19. I will send it to them to look through and ensure that we're not saying anything that's incorrect. From there, I create the script. And creating the script, I have to be very careful in that you can't add too many scientific terms. You have to make sure the jargon is being explained, but explained in layman's terms that is also translatable. Because there's certain concepts that are very difficult to translate in other languages. Right. So once I've written a script, I translate it into Hindi and see what is feasible, what needs to be explained further, go back, rejig the script up. And that's what goes out to all of our volunteers who translate it into their native language. And there are sections in the script that I will actually highlight and say, do this to the best of your ability that fits for your community. Okay. So there's different places where language, culture, and community plays a huge role in how you would translate them. Right. But the basis of the script is the same.
And I like the idea that you have this checks and like checkpoints, if you will, right, to quality control, right, and to get to a product, and you have evaluation internally and externally that allows you to produce a video. You say, okay, this is factually correct at this point in time, right?
Yeah,
there's a key thing there at this point in time. We'll discuss that a little bit about how the changing information affects all of this. How much time does it take to just get from the idea stage to a video posted?
It can take anywhere from 2 to 2.5 weeks.
Okay. Okay, that's something to keep in mind, because sometimes these things don't just come up from nowhere.
Yep.
They are it's a process
Yes.
involved to get there. And what would you say have been the challenges so far, major challenges that you faced at this point?
One of the major challenges is getting the videos out to the people who need them.
Mm.
And it's trying to figure out what is the best method. And actually, our team just had a meeting about and brainstorming how can we get the information out. And so we're trying to develop a few different ways, trying a few different things. But that's been a major challenge, making sure that it's going to the target audience itself. And then lost my train of thought. The second major challenge that I find is that time frame of 2.5 weeks, because from the time a myth develops and how quickly that will go through the community, if it's taking us 2.5 weeks to fact check, make sure that the scripts are correct, translated, the videos are edited with the animations, and then they go out, by that time, people tend to move on to the next myth. Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes we have to be strategic as well in terms of, here are the underlying concepts that keep coming up. We need to talk about those in our videos, and it can't be every single myth that develops.
Okay. And who is the target audience?
Sorry, the target audience?
Who is it?
For us, this was another thing that we discussed as well. The target audience for us are people who are older and did not necessarily grow up with the internet. So they are not always, they don't necessarily have the skills to fact check the information that they're getting. But also people who may or may not have a background in science. So they're more inclined to believe any myth that comes out. And some of the myths that do come, such as turmeric, for example, is so culturally, traditionally deep-rooted that trying to tell people that this isn't going to be the answer to all of your problems. We're looking at a population of people who have a lot of pride in their culture and tradition. So we have to approach it with that mentality as well, making sure that we're not insulting people, but at the same time, telling them to be cautious with the information.
Right. I think, it's a challenge, right? And my earlier question there kind of alluded to this. How do you deal with the changing, the rapid changing landscape of information? You may produce one video after your 2-week, work, and suddenly it's almost, let's say irrelevant, but maybe things have updated, right? How do you deal with that? And do you go back and change things for videos that you produced before that are now maybe outdated? How do you deal with that?
We luckily haven't had that yet.
Okay.
Our topics have been fairly consistent in that our message has always been, be precautious, ensure your safety, explaining social distancing, explaining hand washing. And so our underlying message has mostly been the same, that we haven't had to go back and have to re-edit any of the messages there. I think one update that came after our videos had gone out was how much distance you should be keeping. So initially it was 1 meter, and then it increased to about 2 meters. And that was also, we had taken animation from the WHO and included that in our video, giving credit to them as well, but they've also had to go back and update that information. So, I mean, you do the best that you can. And in all of our videos, when we start the videos, we actually explain there's a reason why information keeps changing. Right. And it's because there's more information coming out. So right now, here's the explanation why there's this new information that came out, a new suggestion that has come out.
Right. I think it's a critical aspect of science, right? And I was just talking to recently Dr. Bredbenner from Simple Biologist, talk about, science is updating. That's actually the nature of science. And our goal as science communicators is to get that message across, that it's always updating. It's not static.
Yes.
Right. So it sounds like in your videos, you try to communicate that aspect of it, right? That it is changing. So how do you measure, if you can, or at least are thinking about this, measuring impact? Are these videos, and by the way, how many have you published so far?
We have 5 videos per language, so about 55 videos.
Okay, which is impressive, just because of the sheer scale of this. But what sort of metrics are you looking at that tells you this is having the intended impact?
When we started making the videos, we actually hadn't thought about how we were going to measure impact. So that's something that we're currently trying to develop. Because the videos are going up on YouTube, I have access to YouTube analytics, trying to understand who is actually watching the video, how are they being shared. And we're finding that majority of our shares are going on WhatsApp, but the limitation is we don't know how many views we're getting then, because WhatsApp opens it up in the app itself, not necessarily taking you to YouTube. Right. So we're losing a section of analytics that we could do there. So we're trying to develop ways that we can actually instill some more analysis. I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Right.
I don't know. But from the responses that we've gotten from our own families who have watched the videos, we're getting very positive responses.
Right.
Okay. So even looking at, because this is a Scicomm venture, and Scicomm in different languages, apart from a Eurocentric language, even just asking the people who have been making the videos, that is another whole impact. And what I'm hearing is it's given them more confidence speaking in their native language. They feel more confident in being able to explain science in their own language without reverting back to English. That can be alienating to other populations. And on top of that, it's been a bonding experience for them and their families as they translate the videos. Right. So the impact goes beyond, I think, just what the content of the video is, in being able to take knowledge and help disseminate that to a population that does not necessarily speak English or emotionally relate to English as main language. I think that's been a huge impact that I'm seeing. And from every single person who's been involved in these videos, that's the message that I've gotten from them, is more confidence in publicly speaking in their own language, a lot more confidence in being able to do Scicomm in their language. So I think that's a huge impact that's coming out from this.
And I think you're tracking, I always say sometimes you don't know what you need, you should just track as much as you can possible, right, within your means. But also, things like engagement itself, right? If you're producing something and you've created a new discourse, like new stations are taking place, right? Even when these platforms like WhatsApp, like measuring, like, okay, we're seeing that people are spending more time talking about this thing, right? Or they're now asking these types of questions than they were before. I think that's interesting to, that's a data point, let me just say, data point that you can then, after a while, you can see if there's a pattern emerging out of it. So I think it's fascinating. And so what's the future? Like, are you guys gonna continue? You have 55 videos right now, different languages. What's the next steps here? Continue to build this thing out? What are you hoping to do?
That was another thing that our team just talked about last week. And there's a lot of interest in not only continuing these type of videos of COVID-19 explainer videos, but also developing videos where we would be explaining more the science behind how it works. And so there seems to be 3 themes that are coming out. There is the scientific aspect of all of the knowledge, explaining everything from the molecular to cellular components, but simplifying it. Mm-hmm. Another theme of precautionary. How can you stay safe? Lockdowns look different in different countries, especially with COVID-19. How can we continue to, if lockdowns start to ease up in a certain country, how can you stay safe or try to? And then a third theme that's coming up is mental health and trying to talk about the effects of what COVID-19 has had on different ages. Mm-hmm. So going from ages 5 to like 65, and it's going to look different for everyone. How is it affecting someone who is a frontline worker and their family? But then also, how can we continue to ensure physical and mental health for our elders who have lost a large part of their community that they would have interacted with now that they have to maintain social distance as well? So I think going forward, we are going to be creating more videos, and it's going to be a little bit of everything that covers. I don't know quite exactly how, but it is. And then even beyond COVID-19, from what I've heard from the team is they want to continue doing some level of Scicomm in different languages. So I'm looking to develop a program where we can train people in how do you do storytelling in your language, do storytelling in Scicomm, evidence-based science communication in your language for your topic, and train people in that component. I think going forward, that's where we're going to be moving with this whole project.
Yeah, that's exciting to just hear about as well. And I think maybe you mentioned it earlier, but you guys are all volunteers.
Yes. Yes.
And just, I think for audience who are listening to you, you guys are volunteers. What moves you? What is it that keeps you going?
The fact that we need this for our communities. I think most of our volunteers are South Asian women. Mm-hmm. And we all have connection to STEM fields in one way or another. And we've seen that, there are times when women do get sidelined. So this is really helping that representation component. But another big part is, especially with the COVID-19 explainer videos, is we care about what information our families are getting. And there is not just our families, but even within our communities, our extended communities. And it's a level of frustration about how much misinformation is out there. And that misinformation is not coming necessarily because people are evil or anything. It's just people don't necessarily understand. And because we have the education, we can and we should step up and try and help explain why certain information is not 100% correct and what do we know instead.
Right.
And give people those skills. So I think a lot of the motivation is coming because we want to ensure people are safe during this time, but we all have a passion for science communication as well.
Yeah. And I think, if anything with COVID-19 is most likely going to end up accelerating the need for science communication, the importance of it, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's the future is really, we'll wait and see how it all plays out. But I think in a way, the COVID-19 is actually helping in a way, in a twisted way. It is getting us there.
It's definitely helped the Scicomm community get a more legitimate stance, I think, overall, because it's pulled scientists out and forced them to do science communication. And at the same time, it's also because it's not just one community. The misinformation is everywhere. The government is fighting it. WHO is fighting it. Everyone is trying to ensure that people are staying safe.
Right.
So I think you're right. Like, it's given a platform and made science communication as a more legitimate aspect in public, I think, which may or may not have had as much before.
Right. Roopali, this was fantastic. We have barely scraped the surface, and we were just scratching it so far. Okay. And for those who are super interested and want to learn more, we hope we've given you enough to want to explore and figure out what this project is all about. So Roopali, how can they get in touch with you? Where are the videos, website? Please go ahead and share. We'll also post this down below, but here's a chance to tell them where to go.
Sure. If you search Lotus STEM anywhere on any of the platforms, you will find us. So Lotus as in the flower, and STEM, STEMM, go with 2 M's. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube now, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. And our website is also www.lotusstem.org.
Fantastic. So we'll add all that info down below for people to explore. Roopali, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing how new videos and how this project of yours develops further.
Thank you very much.